And now let's take a brief look at the third pillar, which are the core narrative theories in story writing. The core narrative theories make up the DNA of a story, and they consist of the plot, the opposition between the main characters, the story chemistry, the way that opposition triggers the flow of interaction, and the timing in which that flow takes place. Putting together the DNA of a story is vitally important. It compares to the human DNA. And now to the final pillar in the universal grammar of story. And this looks at mythology and mystical philosophy. When I was describing the social call, I spoke about the change that happened in a single generation when we moved away from our tribes and into nuclear units. But there was an earlier transformation of human beings that radically altered our lives in the span of a single generation. And that began with Copernicus, who in 1514 drafted his theory that the earth revolves around the sun instead of the universe revolving around the earth. Now, he couldn't get this message out because this intuitive idea came ahead of its time, and he was not permitted to speak it openly. But he did share it in letters with a few other great thinkers of the time that slowly began to develop it. These people did not see this as an existential threat to our meaning in the world. They saw it as a gift from God on high. But little by little over time, the God on high was replaced by those who began to develop and evolve this theory into the God of science, who dispatched the God in the kingdom in heaven and replaced it with scientific rationalism. While this elevated our logical aspects of thought to the highest possible levels, it destroyed our emotional and intuitive selves by replacing God in heaven with the God of science, who dispatched his intercessor, Saint Technology, to rule over us. And in doing so, we became not chosen people, but cogs in the machinery of the Industrial Revolution brought on by science. Charlie Chaplin vividly portrayed this sense of our being cogs in machines, desperately trying to hold on to our humanity in his film Modern Times, as he literally became a cog in a machine. We lost our reverence for ourselves. One of the few places that we can find it is in stories that once again reconnect us to the mystical and mythical realm of the world. Writers naturally feel an instinctive need to infuse something of the mystical into their stories. And fortunately, we have the work of a few scholars from the 1940s who contemplated what this might be and offer us a little bit of insight. We've got Joseph Campbell and his ideas on the hero's journey, which needs a little adjusting. We'll do that in another video. And we have the sacred work of Aldous Huxley, who went through the religious scriptures of the world's great traditions and found 27 points where they all agree that a particular message from the divine, which also flows through stories. But we can't will the mythology into a story. We can't coerce mystical philosophy to grace a story. It has to come like a wild bird of its own accord. You make an attractive place for it, and it comes in of its own free will. And it doesn't come through the writer. It comes through the audience. The audience is what graces the story with the shared reverence that we talked about earlier. That moment of divine feeling where we are outside of ourselves and sharing something larger than our own lives.
And so here we are, we've arrived at the end. The 4 pillars of universal grammar of story have taught us what calls us to write and how it is we respond with different types of thinking. We've looked at language and how simple changes in our everyday speech can empower our writing. We've looked at the narrative core theories of writing, and then finally the mystical philosophy that our audience deeply craves, the mythology of storytelling. So there you have it, everything you need to write the great thing that the world is waiting to hear. But you had it all along. I've only told you where to find it. So start writing. And if you need a little help, there are 3 books on this topic. The main core book, Universal Grammar of Story, An Author's Guide to Writing for the Soul of the World. Then there's the workbook, and there's a game, a great card game. You can either work hard and strategize through your story, or spin a wheel and let the game write the story for you. It can be pretty funny that outcome. Thank you for listening, and I wish you good writing. You can visit us at our website, universalgrammarofstory.com, where you'll find links to our meetup salons. We have regular ongoing salons for writers around the world. And there are also classes and seminars available. So I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.